Nelson Coates, production designer for The Morning Show. Season 2 went through a journey because you guys were filming pre-COVID and then obviously shut down, and then they rewrote the whole season to incorporate COVID. So what kind of adjustments did you have to make after that? Because you also joined the show in season 2 on the first season.
Right. When Mimi Leader, the producing director, joined season 1, we had just finished the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie On the Basis of Sex. And the morning show already had a team in place before she joined. So I went on to do Home Before Dark with John Chu in Vancouver, and then In the Heights. And then she said, is there any way you'd be interested in jumping on board season 2? And I love Mimi. We've worked together for like 16, 18 years. So it was kind of going to be an interesting challenge. They had a very extensive story arc that we had started prepping, going to Algeria and Morocco and all these other places that we were doing a deep dive in how to accomplish all that when in the background the COVID pandemic started. And we actually were the very first show in Hollywood to shut down. And by the end of that day, all the Apple shows shut down, and the next day the industry, and the next day California. So we had filmed 3.5 weeks of material. The show starts literally right after the first season. And we use maybe a day and a half of that 3.5 weeks of filming in the new season, because we did such a major pivot. And of course, a show set in New York, shooting in LA. The first season shot several days to get their New York material. But all of a sudden, when we came back, the scripts were way huge. And we all thought that in COVID and working in the pandemic, that we would have manageable sized spaces and manageable sized events. And of course, the first script starts with New Year's Eve in Times Square, and which couldn't be more crazy. And so we built that in a parking lot in Santa Anita, and built 2 stories of Times Square. I did a full model of the whole Times Square area and our set that we were going to build. And then we had to figure out how to keep our stars segregated from background and how to keep everybody safe and work in all those spaces. But we were also playing catch up, because even though there had been a shutdown, there had been so many ideas about what to do with the storyline that we only had a couple of scripts when we started back to filming. What we did know was that none of the actors really wanted to go out on location. And on top of that, a lot of cities in the Los Angeles area had a moratorium on filming because they didn't know what was happening with the pandemic. So we needed huge luxury estates and big office suites, and we couldn't go to Pasadena or Beverly Hills or you name it. So we started just drilling down and actually taking over more stages at Sony, and we built a 12,000 square foot office complex with all the offices and bullpens and hallways and elevators, and then all of the walls fly and different graphics and different furniture come in, and it becomes another floor with additional 12,000 square feet of space, and all of that from pencil to shooting on that set was 8.5 weeks. So 8.5 weeks to design and build and furnish. It was like hair on fire. And then of course, then we started getting the inkling of what the rest of the season was going to have, which included scenes in Wuhan and Beijing and a train station, the train, and then all over the United States. And it became, how do we mine LA for any possible element to become all these countries? I mean, we're doing streets in Milan and and a villa and all these streets in Lake Como. And so it was kind of crazy because we had to do it all within the confines of LA. So it was quite a big.
I mean, the irony of just having to be in a bubble, but the season is global. Well, yeah, like Italy, the huge subplot this season was Mitch in Italy, and you guys shot that in LA area. So tell me about his Californian Italian villa, his Lake Como villa in California.
Well, Mimi and Carrie Aaron, the showrunner, they sat me down and said, okay, we have this crazy idea. We want to be in Italy, but we know we can't go. We can't even go to New York because there was no way to quarantine actors and be able to film there. So we immediately went on the hunt. And again, the best villas, the best Italianate architecture is in San Marino and Pasadena and Beverly Hills, and none of them allowed any filming. So we expanded our search, and I found a 1920s house on property of a high school in Sierra Madre that a famous early architect in California history, William Neff, had built supposedly on the early plans of a Michelangelo house designed in Florence. And it over time had been given over as a donation to a high school that then had it as an event center. So it was painted and just, bright white, and it was pretty stripped and devoid of any, there was no furniture, no finishes of any sort, as well as no landscaping. And so to come in and figure out, okay, what are the views? Where does this situate on Lake Como? What views are we going to have from where? And then trying to create a very luxe environment that has kind of an intergenerational feel with a lot of layers. So it looks as if this has been in a family for years and years and years. So it doesn't look like they're set up for the magazine, and yet it has the Ruhlman pieces that we literally built to look like Ruhlman pieces, and the Biedermeier elements, and you have the flat screen TV in one room, but you have the tube screen in another, because why do we need to keep buying things? It just has that huge multi-layered, very Italian feel to it. Every surface was redone. We did a lot of faux stone work, a lot of gardens and fountains and things, even beyond what has made the cut. And it was quite fun and spectacular to try to create a real environment and showing the actors, okay, this is what you're looking at when you're going over here, and you can't stand beyond this, because that will be a balcony that drops to nothing. And
you're looking out at Lake Como right now.
Right, exactly. So doing that aspect was great, and also then figuring out the streets of Piazza Cavour and how to actually realize that. We had there's literally two streets in Los Angeles that have cobblestone near the top, it's the Pico House near downtown, and it has enough Italianate structure there that we, I did a photocomp of what I wanted things to look like, pitched it to everyone, and they went, oh my gosh, can we do that? And so we clad the buildings that were not Italianate and all the restaurants and signage and dressing, and we did certain elements to break up our blue screen for the lake. And in the distance where we couldn't actually build facades, we were creating the dressing inside the stores photographically, as well as signage and ATMs and bank fronts. And we were placing them into windows so it looked like the layers of what's happening across the street. And then you throw some tables and chairs in front of it. And it really created a much wider world than just what we could afford to dress and build. I mean, literally, we had 3 days to install, streets, 2 full streets of
like all the storefronts and yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because you need to add depth to it to make.
And there's a lot of walk and talks. No one's just standing around in this store. It's like, let's walk, let's keep talking. So it's a lot of mileage, a lot of shoe leather.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed was, I think this may be because of like the structure you talked about with like, like the 2 levels and then the rotating walls and stuff, but like it seemed like there were a lot of more like bigger views this season, like in the studio and everything with like windows.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I guess that's also part of like updating a look from season to season, even though you didn't work on the first season. So I guess like if the show comes back for a 3rd season, like what would you return and like what would you like to accomplish in a season 3?
Well, we accomplished so much. I mean, season 2 is huge. Every view is big. The sets are really big. I mean, we filled four stages to the walls, including the largest stage in Hollywood with the huge office complex. And I totally redid Alex's penthouse and the returning Bradley's hotel room with then a brand new suite for Corey. So everything got touched and redone. The show itself, the show within a show, we have jumped time. So with that 7 months of story time, we redid the show within a show set with different levels and lighting capabilities and graphics.
A lot more screens.
A lot more screens, a huge kitchen to create an odd bump into space for characters so that they actually, could be walking down the hall and bump into a character that they might not normally be into. All the dressing rooms got redone, the elevator lobbies, just Mimi said, go for it, let's dial it up. So, it really grew quite a bit. And we were even doing at one point 2 complete episodes doubled up on top of each other. And so it was quite the craziness to accomplish that scale.
Mm-hmm. And so season 3, would you do you have
So
any ideas?
no one's announced a season 3 yet. So we'll see what happens. Mimi and I are talking over here, and we'll see what and what.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
I'd worked with Reese previously, and to work with her and Jennifer, as well as this amazing cast, was really gratifying. I mean, Reese walked into Billy's office the first time and she goes, "Oh my gosh," she goes, "I've been in this business a long time and I've never seen a set like this. And I've also pitched to all these executives and none of them have an office this nice, So that was pretty nice of her to say. And everybody got to really play in these spaces in a way that I think was super fun for them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Nelson, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you back in a little bit.
Thank you.